Honorable guests, dear participants of this seminar, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to welcome you here and to declare this conference open with an extremely long opening speech. You know, for professors, the standard is 90 minutes. But to start with, it's about impact of research in science education. And as we all know, science has radically changed the meaning and content of not only society, but of who we think we are over the last 150 years. And even though such changes may cause some caution, it's still customary to highly value and trust science and scientists. So some 80 to 90% of citizens of developed countries express trust to science, and this result is, of course, highly appreciated by scientists. But if we look at a little bit closer, then this kind of closer look may provide a different picture and even reveal a massive mistrust to science-based developments in specific fields. For example, a study by Imperial College a few years ago highlighted that 41% of French people think that vaccination is dangerous, not speaking about anti-vaccination movement now. And this actually leads us to a quite important question that is frequently in background or only implicit. What should we do to resolve this kind of discrepancy? And I think that in this context, physical and economic arguments are much better than just dreams or even opinions. If I remember a little bit back to history, Henry Thomas Buckle, the father of contemporary history science, understood also some 1.5 centuries ago an important perception. Specifically, he wrote that in the past, it means that seen from his time, the richest were the countries with the most rich nature. But already in his time, the richest were the countries with the most expeditious people. And there's only a very small change to this statement. Today, specifically, the wealthiest are the countries whose people are the smartest. And this is not only a bare observation. It needs some action to make use of knowledge of smart people for the benefit of society. And this use has become a sort of standard tool in economic decisions. And of course, in nice words, a little bit maybe poetic words, the importance of rapid and efficient use of knowledge for the common benefit is massively growing. Specifically, the potential of this kind of thinking for Estonia has been highlighted a few years ago when a group of scientists and economic people show that the rate of GDP increase could be easily doubled if already existing knowledge in scientific community would be properly used for common benefit. So a direct consequence of this kind of conjecture is that the ability to extract best knowledge from scientists and experts is gradually becoming one of the main pillars of the competitiveness of countries, regions, and even continents when we speak today about the European Union and old good Europe. The problem is that this kind of knowledge is never spread homogeneously, and neither it is available in all countries or regions. And the problem what we have is smallness of some countries like Estonia, when we have less scientists than there are subsections of different scientific disciplines in the world. And also external conditions, for example, driven by the pandemic now or climate change, they are often altered so rapidly that even the best knowledge could be obsolete within a few weeks. And this kind of knowledge has to be not only accumulated, but also educated and trained in order to make it flexible and resilient. We know that most countries and regions have developed a system of interfaces, several interfaces between decision makers and this accumulated knowledge. It is common, basically in all countries, to have a robust national system for shaping and implementing of policy for science. So, in a way, in simpler words, it means kind of roadmap of how scientific efforts are framed, financed, organized, and reported and accounted in the country. There is, or that must be, a complementary link. We have to make at least an attempt to solve the reverse question, how to organize the existing pool of knowledge to use in strategic and also everyday decision making. This channel is often called science for policy. And I must say that not many countries or sectors have the privilege of having such a properly functioning channel. So the picture is even a little bit frustrating, I would say. In many European countries, the science for policy efforts are considerably less developed compared to policy for science. I would say even underdeveloped and normally not institutionalized. And in many occasions they are mixed with other functions or links like lobby for science, and then usually not as effective as they should be. And the very large gap in this context is that the best scientific knowledge is very infrequently used as a component for political decisions. In other words, we really do not use the proper science advice for policy as in its natural function as a gateway for the future which is worth of living. And bridging this gap is one of the major challenges even in the most developed countries. So a better perception of what science is, what could it do, and how could its impact be channeled for the benefit of society is the core of the mission of many academies of sciences and also of the Estonian Academy of Sciences. So driving of science is only part of our mission. Much larger part, much more important part of our mission is providing support to society in solving complicated social and economic problems. This support actually requires a kind of different view on science and in its functioning, and we should normally go to some kind of meta level. And when we address those aspects, we try to make clear what are the roles of two kinds of efforts. One is popularization of science, and other is communication of science. The point of popularization is very simple. We have to make clear that science is cool. One can put even a full stop here. Things are very much different with communication. This process requires much more. This process requires understanding, not only from those who are communicating. And this perception stems from classic information theory, namely, a sequence of bits or bytes is not yet information. Information is only born when the signal has been not only received, but also decoded and understood. Only then we can speak about information. And this aspect needs massive and extensive training. And the feasible way to gather progress in this direction is what you do, and what you talk about today is science education. To my view, this kind of education has even wider purpose. It is one of the most important channels towards building accountability of science. So the scope of this category has also greatly widened during the last decades. It is not anymore simply serving society, and even not simply driving society. It's about co-responsibility of scientific landscape and society, and it must be educated and trained. It's no more about asking challenging scientific questions and communicating the consequences or conjectures to the society. It's gradually more about talking to society in terms of communication and understanding and mutual understanding of the messages and its, I would say, even ramifications. And there the core questions are pretty much different from those which are normally asked by scientists. I like to use formulations of the great German climate scientist Hans von Storch. So he stressed that we should ask completely different questions, like what society would like to ask, what society even already knows, even if it's wrong, what society thinks it knows, and what society would do with a correct answer. I think that answers to these questions would eventually guide us towards feasible solution to the core questions of science already formulated here, how to construct a future worth of living. I wish you every success for today's discussion, and I hope that the day will be very pleasant for everybody. Thank you.